duty calls, the LAPD responds.
Let's be careful out there.
Working as a team to protect and to serve.
Driver's got a gun. Leave us alone! Why don't you just let her go? We have a critical missing.
I lost my puppy.
To fight crime and to keep our streets safe.
Hi everyone, I'm Mary Grady, Public Information Director for the Los Angeles Police Department. Welcome to Inside the LAPD. If you've ever been out driving around and you've gotten pulled over for a traffic violation, you probably think that that's all traffic cops do, give tickets. But in reality, at the LAPD's West Traffic Division, they're doing a lot more than that to keep you safe on the road.
Basically, Traffic Division has 5 primary responsibilities. Traffic enforcement, the investigation of traffic collisions and other traffic-related incidents, traffic education, traffic outreach, and crime suppression. I think most people think of a traffic division, the traffic enforcement and the investigation of traffic collisions and other traffic-related incidents as kind of the common role. And certainly that's a very important part of what we do, simply because the intent is to reduce the incidence of traffic collisions, the property damage, and most certainly the injuries and deaths that occur out as a result of traffic-related incidents. But we also do the things that are less thought of, and certainly that's the traffic education, the outreach programs that are part of the overall tools we use to try to help reduce the incidence of injuries and deaths in traffic incidents. Traffic education, we send officers to schools, community organization, neighborhood watch, churches, to talk about traffic issues. We talk about the importance of not having or being involved with distracted driving, such as using cell phones, reading in the car, eating in the car, doing things that are going to take your mind and your concentration off of your driving. The importance of being alert, the fact that so many traffic collisions are caused because people aren't alert to the things that are going on around them, and just making people aware of those types of things. But in addition to that, going to the schools, talking to the kids about the dangers that pedestrians face, the importance of being an alert pedestrian, not crossing against the light, not riding your bike on the wrong side of the street, being aware of traffic and not riding or walking into traffic or jaywalking, those types of things that cause pedestrians to get struck by cars. And whenever that happens, of course, you invariably have a serious injury or death. It's just the nature of the way things are going to happen. So educating people, trying to reduce the incidence of traffic collisions by education. We also have traffic outreach programs, and there's 3 primary ones that we have. 2 of them which are award-winning, in fact. One of them is the Child Safety Seat Program, and that was started here at West Traffic by an Officer Begley. And what he did was he came up with a program where he started inviting parents to bring their brand new child safety seats to the division, and he would show them, not only show them how to install it, but he would also install to make sure that it was installed properly, because there were injuries that were occurring to children, young children, because the child safety seat was not properly installed, and if it had been, those injuries could have been precluded.
It was just a normal traffic stop at the beginning. I saw a pretty good moving violation. I made the approach on the vehicle and started talking to the driver. Couldn't really see the driver's face or features at this point. It's just the vehicle and the person sitting in the vehicle. During the contact, she didn't have any identification. So I started to ask who she was, and that's when she said she was Hilton, Paris Hilton, and she had to retrieve her driver's license number from a friend. And during that contact, ended up that she had been drinking a little bit, and we did a DUI investigation, which resulted in her being arrested. She was very cooperative through the entire process. The question was asked earlier of what we expect on a traffic stop for the person to do, and she was actually, as unlikely as it sounds, she's actually one of the good examples of it. She safely pulled to the right. She listened to all the information. She didn't seem all that nervous about the traffic stop. During the field sobriety test, she cooperated as best as she could. She wasn't asking for any special treatment or wasn't trying to interject her celebrity status into the investigation. She went right with everything we asked her to do.
As a collision investigator, our job is to investigate traffic accidents that involved crimes, such as hit and runs, DUI, traffic accidents, and all the way up to accidents that cause injury, including death. An interesting case came along in April 4th of 2007. My partner, Detective Davis, and I were called out to a double fatal traffic accident. At the time, we didn't know about it, but it was involving a producer, Robert Clark, and his son, Ariel Clark. We also didn't know that there was DUI involved. When we arrived to the traffic accident scene on Pacific Coast Highway and Sunset Boulevard, it was a total mess. There were cars and car parts all over the street. Unfortunately, Robert Clark and his son were still trapped inside their vehicle. And it was our job, my partner and I, to find out what exactly happened. Part of the investigation entailed getting an airship out to look over the scene from above to see any pre-impact tire marks that might help us determine which direction the cars were going. Once we were able to do that, we called out our specialized collision investigation detail, who they came out, and with the information they got from the airship and their own investigation, they were able to find out which direction the cars were going at the time of the impact and actually what caused the accident. Once we figured out exactly what caused the accident, our next job was to talk to the two remaining survivors of the accident, Mr. Velasquez and his girlfriend. I can't remember her name offhand. We conducted a follow-up to the hospital and met with his girlfriend, and she had told us that her and Mr. Velasquez were at a night going to different clubs and eating dinner and drinking a lot. And she said that she was not driving the vehicle and that Mr. Velasquez was. Well, we then tried to interview Mr. Velasquez after reading him his rights. He told us he was too tired to talk to us at that point. Later, when he felt better, he agreed to talk to us about the traffic accident. He admitted that it was his car that was involved in the traffic accident, that he was driving prior to going to the dinner and the clubs, but he denies driving the car after the accident. He said he didn't know who was driving. Well, also part of his statement was that he woke up after the accident, he was outside the vehicle, and he looked at his girlfriend, who was seated in the passenger side of the vehicle. And she was actually trapped in the vehicle. The paramedics had to actually free her from the vehicle. As a result of the accident, she had an injury that caused her to bleed, and her blood was on the passenger side of the vehicle only. And her shoes were stuck in the passenger side of the vehicle. We were able to conclude by that he was the actual driver of the vehicle. We also determined that he was under the influence at the time we first interviewed him, and a blood sample was taken from him. His blood alcohol concentration came back at 0.24, which is 3 times the legal limit. And I can understand why he wouldn't remember the accident. He was then arrested for 191.5, which is vehicular manslaughter, and the district attorney's office accepted the case. He pled guilty and is now serving jail time.
Become a part of the team. The LAPD is hiring. Visit us at joinlapd.com.
From time to time throughout the city, you can expect the LAPD to set up DUI checkpoints. They're looking for impaired drivers.
Well, this is our DUI checkpoint. The City of LA runs several checkpoints every year. This is West Traffic Division's first checkpoint of this year. We decided to have it here on Sunset Boulevard in response to the number of traffic collisions and the fatal traffic collisions that we had. We had 4 fatal traffic collisions earlier in the year down the road here on Sunset. We've had 229 accidents at this location alone. Not all those resulting in serious injuries or death, but still that's a lot of accidents to have at one location. So what we'll do is we'll come out here. Tonight we're working on a grant from the state. It costs about $16,000 for us to put up this checkpoint, and it's basically geared towards education. It's our opportunity to come out here and talk to the citizens and let them know the importance of being responsible drivers, not drinking if you're going to be driving, and then also have a physical presence, something that they look at and they see the police out there doing this type of work. It has a strong impact in their minds. Hopefully in the next weekends coming on down the year there, they'll think about what they encountered here tonight and decide not to drink and drive in the future. We are required to set up our checkpoints in a particular manner. We have a formula of the amount of cars, we have a formula in regards to the cars that we stop, and we also have a certain amount of requirements that are put in place before we even get here. We advertise the fact that we're going to have a DUI checkpoint. We advertise the day and the time. We put out publications to the local businesses. There's usually an advertisement in the newspaper or something on the radio. Also, again, announcing the fact that we're going to have our DUI checkpoint at this location. We set up our checkpoint to where we can safely control traffic in the immediate area. We gauge the amount of volume that we're going to be getting, and that's how we set up which car we're going to stop. Basically, we go, it could be like every 5th car to every 10th car, depending on how much traffic we're affecting. But when a person enters the chute, the very first set of cones, and we have about 3 minutes to get them through. When they actually stop for us, we have about 30 seconds before we have to let them go or take action. And that's plenty of time. Most people spend a lot less than 30 seconds in the chute, or 3 minutes in the chute, and 30 seconds out the window is very easily to get through. Well, this particular checkpoint is not, we're not only looking for impaired drivers, we're also looking for driver's licenses, and we advertise that as well. Tonight, the typical contact, advising the folks what we're doing out here. Good evening, we're LAPD, we're doing a DUI checkpoint. We're also checking for driver's licenses. Have you had anything to drink tonight? Do you have your driver's license? We'll talk to them briefly, engage maybe in a slight conversation just to pass the time while they demonstrate their driver's license. If we see something that causes us interest, then we'll continue, or if they don't have their driver's license, then we will investigate that. And more often than not, they're on their way.
How you doing, sir?
Good, well, thank you.
I'm all right. Can I see your driver's license, please?
Absolutely.
How you doing this evening, sir?
Well, thank you.
Where are you coming from?
Actually from Chin Chin.
Chin Chin. From Florida.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ware, have you had anything to drink tonight? Any alcoholic beverages?
No, don't
Nothing
drink.
at all?
Don't drink.
That's very good. All right.
We probably have about 20 officers here tonight, and that's a very good number, because once we start taking people out of their cars, once we start investigating the DUI drivers, that starts to deplete the amount of officers we have. And we want officers here. Again, it's a visual display of presence, and the more officers, the bigger their impact. Of course, we want to keep the cost down. We want to be cost effective, but again, we don't yield very many DUI arrests out of these. This is basically focused at education. On a contact that's turned into a DUI investigation, the person is going to be asked to step out of the vehicle.
Just going to have these officers check you out for a second, all right?
Okay, thank you.
So just go ahead and turn off your car for me, put it in park.
Another officer is going to park that vehicle for that person. The officer who made the contact is going to escort the driver over to a safe position, and we're going to continue the DUI investigation there, which may include a field sobriety test.
Explain to you what you're doing is demonstrating for you the mask performing, okay? Okay, so we have nothing to drink?
Nothing to drink.
Or you have to look at diabetic or anything? Take insulin for anything?
No.
Any physical defects?
No.
All right, you say you have a natural lisp?
Yeah, I have a natural lisp.
Okay, you have any eye problems?
No.
All right, go ahead and take your hair out of your eye for me. All right. What I want you to do is follow my finger with your eyes only. Don't move your head, all right? Go ahead and tilt your head back. Close your eyes. How long was that?
30 seconds.
Stand on this line facing me. Put your left foot on the line. Put your right foot in front of it, heel touching your toe. Alright, keep your arms out to your side and stand just like that until I tell you to move, alright?
Okay.
On this line right here, what I want you to do is take 9 heel to toe steps, looking down at your feet, arms down to your side, counting out loud in the following manner. 1, 2, 3. I'm only doing 3 because I'm explaining it to you. Once you reach 9, leave the foot that's in front on the ground, take small baby steps, turn back around, and do 9 heel toe steps in the other direction. Again, looking down the street, arms down to your side, counting out loud.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
You have any questions? All right. You may begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, go ahead and turn around. All right, go ahead and stand right here.
1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011, 1012, 1013, 1014, 1015, 1016.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Go ahead and tilt your head back. Close your eyes. Left. Right. Right. Left. What I'm going to do is offer you a chance to use a portable alcohol screening device. Since you are over the age of 21, it's not mandated for you. It's an option for you. All right? If you blow above the legal limit, you'll still have to go back to the station and submit to either a breath test or a blood test.
Mm-hmm.
All right? If you blow below the legal limit, then you'll be about your way.
Okay.
Would you like to use this?
Yes.
Okay. All you're going to do is very simple. When I tell you to do so, you're going to take a nice deep breath, wrap your lips around the tube, and blow out as hard as you can until I tell you to stop, all right?
Okay.
Okay. Take a deep breath. Blow. Keep going, 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 stop. Okay. Zeros. You just take some information down for me and be about your way, okay?
Okay.
If the field sobriety test demonstrates impairment, or the officer has formed the opinion that the person is under the influence, then they would be arrested for driving under the influence. Because we have the capability to supply one of the chemical tests, which is their choice. If they choose to do the breath test, we can do that here for them. Based upon the results of that test, that will determine whether or not they get processed for DUI.
Well, I felt like they just thought I was drunk at first, and then like I blew and I wasn't drunk. I mean, I understand it all, like they need to catch all their drunk drivers and everything, so I felt okay about it.
You have the right to a breath test or a blood test, unless circumstances are that one of them is not available or we're unable to offer it. Sometimes a person has asthma, and it had to be a very serious case of asthma because the machines are actually very good, even for people who are asthmatic. But if they had a serious case of asthma and they were unable to complete that breath test, then they would have to do a blood test. On the other side of it, if they wanted a blood test, but for medical reasons, for instance, they're taking anticoagulants or blood thinners, then they wouldn't be allowed to take the blood test because it would be medically dangerous. So then they would have to take the remaining test. And if they didn't do any of that, then it would be considered a refusal. It's not your right to refuse because there's penalties that come along with the refusal. If someone was going to exercise their rights, there would be no penalties for that. But on a refusal, because when you got your driver's license, you agreed that if you were ever investigated for driving under the influence, that you would complete a chemical test. So, seeing as you violated that agreement, DMV is going to suspend your driver's license. And then, if it ends up becoming an arrest and you get convicted, there are penalties that go along with mandatory jail time and a mandatory fine. Bail is increased on a refusal, but most of the time there's still just a waiting period where as long as they demonstrate that they are going to show up to court when they're promised to do so, they'll be able to sign their name out as well. I would like to say that the city of LA is dedicated to providing quality service, and even though we're out here enforcing DUIs and traffic violations, we want everybody to know that we do it in a fair manner. Our investigations are set to where we have respect for the person who's being investigated, but we also have to follow protocols. Sometimes people are concerned because they're good people and they don't deserve to be in this situation. And we understand that. We understand that just because a person may have made a mistake and had too much to drink and shouldn't have been driving, it doesn't mean they're not good people. It just means that there's a possibility that they're going to go off and cause some serious harm to somebody, and that's what we're trying to prevent. In the event someone has chosen to take a breath test, this is the device we use. This is the current version of the breathalyzer. This is the ECIR device. It stands for electrochemical and infrared. Those are the two methods the device uses to check each sample. The reason why we use two methods is to ensure the accuracy of the results. On top of using those two methods for each sample, we also get a minimum of 2 samples in order to complete that portion of the chemical test. And again, both samples are treated the same way. Once the person has decided to take the breath test, the officer starts or completes a 15-minute observation time. Now that time could have started from the door to throughout the field sobriety test and then onto this device. If the officer's attention was interrupted from that person, then they would just start the 15-minute observation over again. But after the period has been watched, after the subject has been watched for those 15 minutes, then the officer will start up the device, type in the information required, and then have the person blow into the device. It usually takes a good steady breath, generally for about 8 to 10 seconds. The reason why it takes a breath of that long is the volume. The device needs to get a sample of air from the lower portions of the lungs, so it has to expel the air that's on the upper portions of the lungs before it gets to the lower. The sample's submitted to the device will test it. It will kick out that sample, it will test itself to make sure it's back to empty, and then it will ask for the second sample. It will test that sample as well, and then it will give us the results of both those samples. The legal limit in California is 0.08 or higher, which means that at a 0.08 or above, regardless of whether or not you have impairment, the state considers you to be under the influence. We deviate from the 0.08. We'll go below 0.08 if we show, or if it has been demonstrated that the person has impairment, and that coupled with the alcohol makes them unsafe to drive.
If you break the law while you're driving your car or you're in an accident, you can be assured that the dedicated men and women of the LAPD's West Traffic Division will be there to either help you or put you behind bars. I'm Mary Grady. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time on another edition of Inside the LAPD.